Good morning, everyone. My name is Fred Ridley, and I serve as chairman of Augusta National Golf Club in the Masters Tournament. For the second time in 5 months, it is my privilege to welcome you to Augusta National. I thank you for your interest in the Masters, as well as our amateur events, which took place last weekend. In the short time since we were last here, we have remained focused on our commitment to make a meaningful impact on the local Augusta community. In November, Augusta National and our partners at AT&T, Bank of America, and IBM donated $10 million to support the redevelopment and advancement of the Harrisburg and Laney Walker neighborhoods. Yesterday, we celebrated one of the first milestones in this long-term commitment at the groundbreaking and construction for the Hub Community Center and the new local Boys and Girls Club headquarters. These facilities will unlock wonderful opportunities for the residents they serve, including in education, healthcare, and much more. We look forward to sharing additional details as these projects move forward. Also on the community front, we have continued our efforts to assist Augusta in facing the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. These endeavors have included donating the use of property owned by the club on Washington Road to serve as an in-kind donation and as an Augusta University Healthcare Vaccination Center. In addition to this donation, we contributed $2 million jointly with the Community Foundation to support this vaccination center, as well as local pop-up clinics and mobile vaccination units in underserved communities. As of this past Monday, AU Health and East Central Georgia Department of Health have administered over 20,000 vaccinations. Their critical work carries on today, and we at Augusta National are grateful for the ongoing efforts of our local medical community and all healthcare providers who are working around the clock to vaccinate and protect the public. Our efforts, along with the sports community at large, have shown that we all have a role to play in overcoming this pandemic. In addition to providing vaccination sites and embracing other opportunities to support the medical community, these efforts have extended to the successful staging of sporting events, despite the challenges of the pandemic. Sports brings communities together, and I commend the leadership of this important segment of our society who have contributed to this effort. As it relates to our events at Augusta National this week, we hoped it would be possible to welcome back all of our patrons in 2021. Based on current conditions, however, we concluded the right course of action was to limit patrons this week, and we have done that with appropriate health and safety protocols in place. We are optimistic that conditions will continue to improve, and we look forward next year to the full return of the signature roars that have been a part of Masters history. Last weekend, we resumed two important annual traditions leading into the Masters: the Augusta National Women's Amateur and the Drive, Chip, and Putt National Finals. We were excited to provide these special opportunities for the players who have waited and worked so hard for this moment. I want to congratulate Subasa Kajitani on her 2021 Augusta National Women's Amateur title and all the Drive, Chip, and Putt National Finals champions and finalists. I have no doubt we will be seeing much more of these aspiring golfers in the future of the game. Turning now to our attention to this week's tournament, the 85th Masters features a field of 88 players from 23 countries, 3 of whom are amateurs and 6 first-time participants. Our defending champion and world #1, Dustin Johnson, returns after his record-setting victory in November. And I can personally attest that Dustin is in great form, having played with him here just last month. I'm sure Dustin will be highly motivated to win back-to-back titles for the first time since Tiger Woods accomplished that feat almost 20 years ago. On the subject of our 5-time champion, like all of you, I was deeply saddened when I learned of Tiger's tragic car accident in February. Tiger Woods is one of the greatest competitors in the history of all sports, and he is and forever will be a part of the fabric of Augusta National and the Masters tournament. Our thoughts are with Tiger and his family and loved ones with whom he shares such a close bond. He is greatly missed this week, and we continue to hope and pray for his recovery. To those of you here today in person, I hope you have been able to walk the course to see that once again, Augusta National's golf course and nursery teams have outperformed themselves. This talented and dedicated group of people face the unprecedented test of having only 20 weeks from Sunday of the 2020 Masters to prepare our course and grounds to the standard the world has come to expect. The turf condition is excellent. The course is playing firm and fast, and the azaleas and dogwoods are in full bloom. In short, we are ready to go. The topic of the golf course understandably leads to a discussion of distance and its impact on golf. In early February, our sports governing bodies announced 2 areas for research, as well as 3 proposed changes to current equipment standards. Now, a conversation will begin to determine the best path forward. As I've stated in the past, each year, we look at every hole of our golf course. Fortunately, we do have the ability to make any number of changes to protect the integrity of the course. At the same time, we hope there will not come a day when the Masters or any golf championship will have to be played at 8,000 yards to achieve that objective. This is an important crossroads, so we will continue to urge the governing bodies and all interested parties to put forward thoughtful solutions as soon as possible. In 2019, we announced plans for a new state-of-the-art complex designed to serve as the nerve center of our broadcast and digital coverage. I am pleased to share that the first phase of our new content center on the north side of Washington Road is completed and operational this week, right on schedule. This year, our domestic broadcast partners, CBS and ESPN, are operating from this location, with all international broadcasters and the Masters digital team joining them in 2022. We believe this content center will be a catalyst to further innovation in our efforts to bring the Masters to the world. As in November, this week's broadcast will feature sweeping drone views and aerial views of the golf course. In addition, we have added a second fly cam at the 12th tee, which will provide a unique perspective of Amen Corner. As a complement to our television broadcast, we will again be featuring my group on Masters.com and on the Masters app. As you know, my group allows fans worldwide to watch every shot on every hole from their favorite players. The My Group feature also will be integrated into our new Masters fantasy game, which also will be on Masters.com and the Masters app. Fans can now create their own fantasy team and compete against family and friends. These digital offerings are another example of providing content to our fans in a way they would like to view it. Before we leave the subject of Masters content, I want to share our re-entry into the video game space, as we have again partnered with EA Sports in their return to the golf world. With Road to the Masters, you'll see on the screens to your left and right, will show the video game's cover and illustrate the prominent role the Masters tournament and Augusta National will play within the game. We believe the attention to detail surrounding the course and our traditions will be world-class and will provide new and current fans around the globe with a fun and interactive way to look at Augusta National. The Road to Masters is scheduled for release ahead of the tournament next year. All proceeds to Augusta National will be contributed to the Masters Tournament Foundation and our work to grow the game, both here in the U.S. and around the world. As we prepare for the opening round tomorrow morning, we look forward to the historic occasion that we announced in November. Lee Elder, the first black man to compete in the Masters, will join our great champions, Gary Player and Jack Nicklaus, for tomorrow's honorary start to the tournament. This week marks 60 years since Gary became the first international Masters champion. It also is the 35th anniversary of Jack's record 6th green jacket. And tomorrow morning, we also will reflect on the moment at Augusta National in 1975 when Lee Elder bravely broke barriers as his name was announced on the first tee. And I cannot wait to have the honor of introducing Lee and celebrating his inspiring legacy with our patrons and viewers worldwide. Before I close, I want to speak about an issue that presently is of great public interest, the recently enacted Georgia voting law. I believe, as does everyone in our organization, that the right to vote is fundamental in our democratic society. No one should be disadvantaged in exercising that right, and it is critical that all citizens have confidence in the electoral process. This is fundamental to who we are as a people. We realize that views and opinions on this law differ, and there have been calls for boycotts and other punitive measures. Unfortunately, those actions often impose the greatest burdens on the most vulnerable in our society. And in this case, that includes our friends and neighbors here in Augusta, who are the very focus of the positive difference we are trying to make. Yesterday's groundbreaking for the community center was a joyous occasion. It reminded us that our mission to serve Augusta and its citizens is where we can and will make the greatest impact. I want to thank you again for being here. Tom, I'm ready to take a few questions.
Great, thank you. When acknowledged, we kindly ask that you lower your mask and speak directly into the microphone. Thank you. Questions? Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Chairman Ridley, I wanted to talk to you more about the vaccination site that you set up here in Augusta with Augusta University. It has, as you referenced, made an incredible impact on this community and its ability to distribute the vaccine. So thank you for doing that. And my question is, how did that concept come about? And have other cities, possibly states, reached out to you all to try to implement a similar model?
Well, Brad, thank you for those comments. We've had a long history of working with the community of Augusta, and that includes Augusta University and, in this case, AU Health. I would have to say that, all the credit on this should go to AU Health because they have done an unbelievable job in this community of vaccinating our citizens. We were very interested in, and were, quite frankly, excited about the opportunity to have a part in this initiative here in Augusta. As you know, we do own quite a bit of property along Washington Road and elsewhere. And we felt that the shopping center, the former Steinmart Shopping Center, was an excellent place to stand up this vaccination center. So it was a joint effort, as many things that we do. As far as other communities, I think that we aren't unique in this effort. I mean, there have been a number of institutions and organizations that have contributed in a similar manner that we have. And I think the sports community is a great example. I know the NFL has used their stadiums in a number of cities as vaccination centers, and they've worked really, really well. So I think it's just an effort of people working together, and it's been good here in Augusta. We've had great success. Obviously, can always do better, but we've just been honored to be a part of this joint effort.
Thank you.
Questions? Daniel.
Mr. Chairman, the Distance Insight report was met with some blowback from PGA Tour players. So I'm curious if the USGA or the R&A decide not to make any changes that you mentioned, so it doesn't have to be 8,000 yards. Could you see the club sort of deviating from those rules and coming up with its own regulations to protect the golf course?
You know, I know there's been some talk in the past of possibly a Masters golf ball or something like that. I would think that would be highly unlikely and would, in my view, be an absolute last resort. You know, we have had a longstanding position of supporting the governing bodies, and I was very encouraged when I saw the areas of interest that were published by the USGA and the RNA recently. You know, I know there's been varying opinions among players and others, other stakeholders in golf, and that's really how the process should work. I would add that as far as I understand what is being studied, that that part of the study would not be intended to make it more difficult or to impose regulations that would make it more difficult for higher handicappers to play. So we're concerned about that issue. I mean, growth of the game is a big issue, but our position would be to support the governing bodies, and then if there is no action taken for whatever reason, then we need to look at other options with regard to our golf course and what we can do to continue to challenge these great golfers and maintain the design integrity that was initially adopted by Mr. Jones and Mr. McKenzie.
Bob.
Fred, you noted early on about the limited patrons this year. I'm just wondering if you can say to what maybe percentage are you at you would be normally? Can you give us any idea as to what you were looking at, and how did you decide who got to come? And then if I could follow that, please.
Sure. Well, Bob, I wouldn't speak to percentages. It clearly is a limited number, as everyone can observe by just watching what's going on out there. We really sort of backed into a number or a percentage, based on advice we were getting from medical experts and other healthcare authorities. And the key was that, how many people could we have on the grounds and still safely conduct the tournament? We have a number of protocols in place, as you know. We call it the Swiss cheese approach. I mean, it's a layered approach. We're still, requiring that people wear masks. Clearly, being outdoors is great, but we still feel that that's something that we should do. We are, when it's practical, certainly expecting people to social distance. We have signage and other communication, managed capacity in various venues. So, when you take all of those together, we felt really good about the numbers that we have here.
And to follow it appears that you're not allowing people to put their chairs out and leave them, which has sort of been a tradition. People would honor the chairs being left. You could come back. Is that a one-year thing due to the COVID situation, or will that be an ongoing policy? No,
that's strictly in response to the health issues that we perceive and we believe are valid. That is a great tradition, and we expect that would return in 2022. One thing, I did want to answer, I don't think I answered the second part of your question, and that is that every traditional group of credential holders, whether it be daily ticket holders, badge holders, Berkman's Place holders, all were represented in the tickets that were distributed this year. And we also were very pleased to be able to provide local healthcare workers, quite a few local healthcare workers with credentials to watch the tournament.
Christine.
Right.
Hi, Christine. How are you?
Thank you. How are you? Following up on the Georgia voting law, just to be clear, are you for the law or against the law? And if you are against it, what does the club with its considerable power plan to do about it? Thank you. Christine,
I don't think that my opinion on this legislation should shape the discussion. As I stated in my previous comments, I believe And I am confident that every member of this club believes that voting is an essential, fundamental right in our society, and that, as I stated, that anything that disadvantages anyone to vote is wrong and should be addressed. I'm not going to speak to the specifics of the law, but I do know that the best way I think there's a resolution, and I think that resolution is going to be based on people working together and talking and having constructive dialogue, because that's the way our democratic society works. And while I know you would like for us to make a proclamation on this, I just don't think that is going to be helpful to ultimately reaching a resolution. And so we would like to encourage people to talk, to communicate, to let the democratic process work. And hopefully these fundamentals that I've stated are so important to us, and I think everyone in this room, can be achieved.
Ron?
Fred, as you've had time to reflect on November and what you've been through the past 6 or 8 months, what have you learned about the tournament, the club, and maybe yourself that you can apply going forward?
Well, I think, first, I guess I would say that just for the Masters to be able to be played in November was really a coming together of, what we refer to sometimes as the golf ecosystem. And that is, there was a lot of give and take, a lot of compromise. There were tournaments like ours that had to move their dates. Obviously, there were other tournaments that were canceled and weren't rescheduled. So, it was a situation where everyone or no one had an outcome that was ideal, but everyone worked together to make the best of it. And so with that in mind, our focus was really maybe two or threefold. One is to take a position with regard to conducting the tournament that would keep everybody as safe as possible. And in November, we made a decision that meant no patrons. But notwithstanding the fact there weren't any patrons, there are hundreds and thousands of people it takes to put on the tournament, whether or not anybody's on the grounds or not, to watch it. And so that was really our focus, of keeping all those people safe. I think the other thing was to present a golf course that was one that we would be proud of for these great players to compete on. As you know, we are a winter golf course, winter club with a grow-in process during the fall. So we do everything with regard to conditioning the course to have the best possible golf course in April, not in November. So our grounds crew did an amazing job, led by Brad Owen, in getting the golf course in excellent condition, and really changed our mowing practices some, mowed more frequently, mowed at lower cuts, which caused, frankly, a lot of stress on the golf course. And it's amazing that we were able to get to November and have a course in as good shape as it was for that time of year, and then recover to where I think the course is in the best condition I've ever seen it in the 20 years that I've been a member here.
Mark?
Hey, Fred, I'm over here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
With regard to the course, which you just referred to a little bit, obviously there was only so much you could do last year in November. It's softer and whatnot. There's been a lot of talk amongst the players about how fast it is right now. And even Phil Mickelson yesterday spoke to us about how the defense is the greens here, and they haven't been respected for quite a long time now, that they're among the softer on the tour. Where do you feel they stand right now, and did 20 under bother you guys at all in November, and where do you want that number to be ideally?
Dustin Johnson's play was spectacular, and he was a champion that week. And we don't have any prescribed score. I mean, the fact that Dustin was 20 under was a combination of his extraordinary play, but at the same time, admittedly, the golf course was soft. We had a lot of rain leading up to the tournament, and I think the time of year combined with the wet conditions produced an extraordinarily soft golf course. So it was ready to be, played very well with a lot of red numbers. But that really had nothing to do with the way the golf course is playing right now. We've had ideal weather. We had a cool January. We had a little more rain than normal in February, but all of those conditions have normalized, and you've seen the weather the last few days. It's been terrific. This is probably the first year in the last, probably going back to, what year did Adam Scott win? 2013, I think, when we actually came into the week with the golf course playing firm and fast as it is right now. Yeah, I mean, our intention would be to maintain that throughout the week. In the past, we might have started out a little soft and then got firmer as the week went on, or vice versa. And last week we were pretty soft all week. Or last year we were pretty soft all week. So I think I think we have the golf course where we want it. Is playing, as I said in my comments, firm and fast. Not only the greens but the fairways, and the ball is rolling. And Bobby Jones said often that he wanted to create an inland links course when he built Augusta National. So when you think about that, we certainly don't look like a links course because we have a lot of trees, but we can have the characteristics of a links course by having the ground play a big part in how the course is played. And that's what we're trying to do.
Michael.
Thank you, Tom. Hi, Fred. It's hard to imagine any sporting event that's more associated with food than this one. Last year, you may remember, Dustin was asked for his favorite tradition. He mentioned the sandwiches, and this year you've introduced a new sandwich. A couple food questions. Do you have a favorite food item on the menu here?
Do I have a favorite food item? Well, I like them all, but I try to stay away. We have all these sandwiches that you have on the golf course down in the tournament meeting room, and I used to wander down there frequently. I tried to stay away. But seriously, I think that's really one of the great traditions of the Masters tournament is the pimento cheese and barbecue sandwich and egg salad sandwiches, and we try to provide those at a reasonable price, and I think that maybe just sort of adds to the feeling for those. But it's a great part of the tournament. I like them all.
The same, and then follow up on that. You've hosted and attended many amateur dinners and champions dinners, and for those of us who haven't been there, which is all of us, most of us, can you give us a sense, or is there one story that really illustrates that you can share that illustrates what those dinners are all about?
Well, I've been to quite a few more amateur dinners than I have champions dinners. I've probably been to 40 amateur dinners. I have a picture in my office of the first one I ever attended. And in the background, if you look very closely, with sort of between two other heads, was Clifford Roberts. That was his last year as chairman. And so that certainly is a memory that I'll always cherish. But the amateur dinners are special. Every year we have either a past champion or a player who had played as an amateur come and give what we call the pep talk. Talk about his experience playing the tournament. I think all the amateurs enjoy that. This year it's going to be a little different because we only have 3 amateurs. Based on the fact that 3 of our criteria were champions that didn't take place last year. As it relates to the champions dinner, I said last night, and I really believe this, that there is no tradition at Augusta National that's any more important than the champions dinner. What really struck me was the affection and the respect that each one of those gentlemen have for this place, and how proud they are to wear the green jacket, and also the camaraderie and the affection among themselves. I mean, it's a group like none other. And Dustin Johnson was great last night. I mean, he is so happy and so proud to be a part of the Masters Club. And we had a great turnout last night. We had 31 past champions, several that were not here in November. It was just a great celebration, and one that I was was very honored to be a part of as a guest.
We have time for just a few more questions. I see Juan's hand up in the back.
So in the context of the discussion of diversity and inclusion, I mean, there's an history here of Latin American Spanish champions. There's more and more Latinas and Latinos taking on the game, young kids, and there's a lot of Hispanics in the backstage, no, in the golf industry. So I was curious, what is the Augusta's vision about Hispanics, both in the U.S. and in the region, no, in the Americas?
Well, thank you. That's a very important subject. We have had some of the most exciting and historical moments at the Masters have been provided by Hispanic golfers. Of course, starting with Seve and now with Sergio and in between Jose Maria. Just really some great Masters moments. As you know, we along with the USGA and the R&A, are very involved in golf in Latin America with our Latin America Amateur Championship. We now have had 6 of those and look forward to resuming that championship in January. We think that, as was the case in Asia, that we're seeing almost a predictable progression, as we did in Asia, of the quality of those players improving, and more of the good players. I mean, witness Sebastian Munoz and I'm drawing a blank on Joaquin Niemann, who won in Chile and who've just done great on the tour, are both here this week. So I think on the competitive side, we're seeing a lot of progress. You referenced the golf business, and I think I would really commend the PGA of America and the many initiatives that they have undertaken with regard to Hispanic and Latinx golfers. And I actually saw a list of those recently. It was very impressive, and I'd be happy to find it and provide it to you. But I was really heartened to see, how they have really undertaken, that segment of our society, and I think they're making a lot of progress. So I would really commend them for what they're doing.
Scott in the back.
Fred, I'm curious that now that you've had 2 Augusta National Women's Amateurs to look at, if you've seen anything in these 2 installments that maybe will lead you to try to make some changes or tweaks to improve it and maybe improve sort of the familiarity some of these women can have with the golf course in the future, and if I can have a related follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Scott, that's a good question. We certainly would like to be able to, provide more opportunities for them to become familiar with the golf course. The only time that it's practical to have a championship of that magnitude is right up against the Masters. We've been asked in the past about an LPGA event. That's a great idea, but it would be very difficult to do that. So we felt that having an amateur championship just preceding the Masters was our best opportunity to do that and to do something for women's golf. I think part of what you saw on Saturday was what the players are commenting about right now, and that is, the firm and fast greens. I don't think in 2019 that it was quite as big of an issue. I acknowledge what you're saying, and I wish that, there were more opportunities. But, I guess I would just say that, one round here in the Masters changed my life. So hopefully that experience, despite some of the challenges, is one they're going to always remember and will take with them. But we were just happy to have them.
We're going to do one last question. Doug?
But as much as the surrounds of this tournament has just grown so much over the years, can you see a day where you would provide any type of housing for the players?
Housing for the players?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an issue certainly that we think about and we have addressed in some respect with respect to our volunteer staff. You know, I think that would be never take anything off the table, but I'm not, you know, I guess my question would be, you know, whether or not there's really demand for it. I mean, you know, Dustin was telling me about the 16-bedroom house that he rented last year when he was here in November. So we might have a hard time duplicating that. But, you know, and I think, you know, most of these players, you know, travel with a contingency that's fairly significant of, you know, of trainers and nutritionists and all kinds of, you know, people that help them with their games. And so that might be an issue as well. But, you know, I mean, you know, we try to get better every year and we don't really take anything off the table, but that's not one that I've given a lot of thought to.
Great. Well, that concludes. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the Masters tournament.